After 12 years of marriage, my husband left me on my 40th birthday, said he needed someone younger. I just nodded. Now he's 42, single, and living with his mom, while I just got engaged to his former boss. Yesterday, he came and shocked us with a statement. I debated writing this for months. Even now, my hands are kind of shaking. This isn't just some petty revenge story or a pity post. It's a piece of my life I buried so deep, I didn't think I'd ever touch it again. But something happened yesterday that cracked everything back open. And now I need to get this out. My name's Ruby. I turned 42 years ago, and what happened that day still plays in my head like it just happened. I thought I was waking up to a celebration. Balloons, a breakfast with the kids, maybe a little surprise if my husband actually remembered to do something sweet for once. Instead, I got blindsided, crushed in front of the people I love the most. We'd been married 12 years, 2 kids, a decent house in Michigan, a dog that kept chewing up the fence, and a rhythm. Not a happy rhythm, not anymore, but a routine. I think that's what people forget when they talk about marriage. Sometimes you stop loving each other loud and just start coexisting in silence. But I wasn't ready to admit that yet, not until he did it for me. That morning, I was icing a homemade cake, something small, just for us. I wasn't expecting much. Honestly, I'd been getting used to disappointment. He walked in wearing a clean shirt and cologne, which already felt off. He never bothered with cologne at home anymore. Then he said it, I think I want a divorce. Just like that. No build-up, no conversation. The kids were still finishing their cereal. Our youngest was holding a card she made out of construction paper. He didn't stop there. He looked right at me and said he'd met someone. She was 29. I need someone younger, he added, like he was talking about trading in a used car. No shame, no hesitation. And then the kicker. I hope we can keep it civil for the kids. I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I just nodded. Something inside me went stone cold. I can't explain it, but it was like I split into 2 people in that moment. The one he just discarded and the one who wasn't going to let this be the end. He left that afternoon. Bag already packed. He didn't even say goodbye to the kids properly, just mumbled something about seeing them soon and walked out like he was late for a meeting. And that was it. 12 years gone with 6 words and a cheap bottle of cologne. The first week, I didn't tell anyone. I told the kids he was away for work. I didn't want them to know yet. I didn't want anyone to know yet. I couldn't bear the thought of people seeing me as the wife who got dumped for someone younger. That cliché, that pathetic storyline. So I stayed quiet and I started planning. I'm not the type who falls apart. I don't collapse in public or beg someone to love me. But inside, I'll admit it. I was humiliated, angry. A type of rage I'd never felt before took root. Not loud rage, not the kind you throw dishes over, but the quiet kind that sharpens you, that fuels something, that whispers, you are not done yet. So I started working on myself, on my life. I signed up for a boot camp class. I went to therapy. I started freelancing again, something I hadn't done since the kids were toddlers. I updated everything, my wardrobe, my style, my boundaries, and slowly I started becoming someone I didn't recognize, in the best way. He thought I'd fall apart. He thought he was trading in for an upgrade. What he didn't realize was that I was just getting started. The first 6 months were the hardest. He didn't call the kids often. When he did, it was awkward and short, like he had somewhere better to be. I didn't ask questions. I let the silence do the work for me. I figured they'd figure it out eventually, and they did. Meanwhile, I became obsessed with not becoming what he expected. I didn't want to be the bitter ex or the lonely mom who still wore her old wedding ring in secret. I sold it, actually used the money to buy myself a proper laptop and some weights. I cut my hair, went back to my maiden name. One night, I even went to a jazz club alone just to prove to myself I could. The weirdest thing? I started to enjoy my own company more than I ever had in my entire adult life, and that's when people started noticing. My neighbor Stacy pulled me aside one day and said, "You're glowing. What happened?" I just smiled and said, "I started sleeping on the whole bed again." That wasn't a lie. Then came the encounter. It was about 10 months after he left. I was picking up takeout from a new Mediterranean place downtown, wearing this deep green dress that used to be too tight, but now fit just right. I turned around and there he was, him, my ex, standing 2 people behind me in line, looking like a deflated version of the man who walked out of my kitchen with so much confidence. The woman he left me for? Gone. Apparently, she'd moved on to some tech guy in Austin. He stared at me. I stared back. I gave him a polite nod. Nothing more. Didn't even say hi. That part felt good. But what happened a few days later was what really shifted everything. I got an email. It was from Nathan, his former boss, the owner of the firm where my ex had worked for nearly a decade. We'd only spoken once at a holiday party years ago. In the email, he said he'd heard about the divorce and hoped I was doing well. Then he said something strange. He asked if I'd be open to coffee, said he had a business proposition, and had heard through a mutual friend that I'd started consulting again. I wasn't sure if it was real or some awkward attempt at sympathy, but I was curious enough to go. It wasn't awkward, not even close. Nathan was sharp, funny, and intense, in that quiet way that makes you want to lean in when he talks. He asked about my work, my kids, my plans, and then he said something that threw me off. "You've rebuilt yourself. Most people don't. They just patch the hole and keep limping." We ended up talking for almost 3 hours. The business proposition was real, but something else was clearly happening. That was the beginning of something I never saw coming. What started as meetings became lunches. Lunches became dinners. Dinners became something that felt dangerously close to love. And then one night, he kissed me. A year after being dumped like trash, I was kissing the man who used to sign my ex-husband's paychecks. And I didn't feel guilty, not even for a second. The craziest part? My ex still had no idea. But he would. Very soon, it started to feel like I was living someone else's life, the one I used to daydream about during those long, silent dinners when my ex was on his third beer and hadn't asked me a single question all week. But this wasn't a fantasy. This was real. Nathan didn't rush anything. He met the kids slowly, on neutral ground at first, took time to learn who they were, not just how to talk to them, but how to see them. They took to him faster than I expected. My daughter even asked if we could invite him to her school recital. That's when I knew this wasn't just about me. It was becoming about us. We didn't post about each other. We weren't flashy. But people started to figure it out. Our town's small enough that whispers move quicker than wind. And then, right around Christmas last year, Nathan proposed. It wasn't some grand gesture. No fireworks, no crowd. Just the two of us on the back porch with snow falling and 2 mugs of cocoa cooling beside us. He pulled out a ring and asked if we could build a life that felt like ours, not just something we were handed. I said yes. That's when the cracks started showing. My ex found out about the engagement 2 days later. I still don't know how. My guess is one of his friends saw something and couldn't resist. Either way, I got a text from him out of nowhere. First one in months. It said, "Seriously, him? You're kidding, right?" I didn't answer. The next day, the kid said he called them out of the blue and started asking weird questions. Stuff like if Nathan ever yelled, if he ever spent the night, if he ever said anything controlling. It didn't take a genius to figure out what was happening. He wasn't interested in parenting. He was trying to dig for something he could use. A week after that, he showed up at my house unannounced. Nathan and I were in the kitchen putting together some shelves. The kids were upstairs. I heard the knock and didn't think much of it. But when I opened the door, there he was, my ex, standing in the cold with no jacket like he just marched over in a rage. He didn't even say hello, just looked past me and said, "So, this is your plan now? Playing house with my boss?" Nathan stepped into the hallway and didn't say anything. Just looked at him. Calm. My ex didn't take it well. He muttered something about betrayal, about how this wasn't over, and stormed off. Not before kicking over the recycling bin on his way out. That was just the beginning. Over the next month, he started showing up more, accidentally running into us at stores. Once, he even left a note under Nathan's windshield at the gym. Petty, vague stuff like, "You have no idea what she's really like." It didn't scare me. It annoyed me. Mostly it made me sad. For the kids, for what he used to be, for how far he'd fallen. But then it escalated. One morning, we woke up to find a key scratched across the hood of Nathan's car. No cameras, no witnesses, but we knew. The kids were the last to turn on him. They tried to give him a chance, but after he showed up drunk to my son's soccer game and picked a fight with the coach, even they stopped asking when his weekends were. And yet, despite all of it, part of me kept asking the question I didn't want to say out loud. What if he really means it when he says he wants to come back? Because that's what he started saying, repeatedly, in texts, in voicemails, in a letter he mailed me like it was 1997. I messed up, I see now, I'll do anything. But it was too late, and still, he wasn't done. By early spring, it felt like we were standing on a cliff edge. Everything was beautiful, but if I looked too long over the edge, I could still see where I came from, still hear his voice echoing up from below. I wanted to enjoy what I had with Nathan, the calm, the laughter, the feeling of safety that had taken me months to even recognize again. But the past wouldn't stay in the past. My ex had started hovering around the edges of my life like a stray looking for a door left ajar. It was pathetic at first. Petty texts, awkward calls to the kids, even leaving a box of old photos on my porch like that would stir something up. But he was wearing down whatever pride he had left. Every move felt less like anger and more like a man unraveling slowly in reverse. Then one morning, he showed up unannounced again. No storming, no shouting, just standing there on the sidewalk with a paper coffee cup in this weird practice calm. He waited until the kids left for school and I was alone outside trimming the hedges. I thought about going inside, but I didn't. I was tired of hiding. He walked up slowly, like I might bolt. He said he'd been thinking about everything, about me, the kids, even Nathan. He said he finally understood what he threw away and that it had taken losing it all to wake him up. I didn't say anything, I just listened. He said he was clean, therapy twice a week, hadn't touched alcohol in 4 months. Said he was working part-time for a friend's contracting company, living with his mom temporarily, trying to get back on his feet. Then he said the line that stuck with me. That honestly turned my stomach more than any insult he ever threw at me. You win. You're stronger than I thought. But maybe now I'm finally strong enough for you too. I didn't even know what that meant. Strong enough for me? Like this was some twisted game of waiting until I became worth it. He kept going. Said he knew about the engagement. Said it wasn't real. That Nathan wasn't the kind of man who would stick around once things got hard. That I was only doing this because I wanted revenge, not because I was in love. I remember standing there with the clippers in my hand, thinking how surreal it was that the same man who once tossed me aside like a bag of laundry was now standing here begging for a second chance. Except he was doing it in a way that wasn't about love, it was about possession. Like he thought somehow he still had a claim. Then came the offer. He said we didn't have to tell the kids right away. That he could take the guest room. That we could ease into it. That maybe this could be a story we laugh about one day. I think he believed that. He actually thought if he looked sad enough, if he said the right combination of words, I'd fold. But I didn't. I told him I'd found peace, that I wasn't rebuilding the past. I was living something entirely new, that the door he kicked open a year ago wasn't just shut now, it was gone. I'd built a wall where it used to be. He didn't handle it well. The mask slipped, the voice cracked. He accused me of lying to the kids, of ruining their image of him, of pretending to be someone I'm not. Nathan came out. He didn't say much, just stood next to me, and that simple act seemed to enrage my ex more than anything I could have said. He pointed at Nathan, voice shaking, and said, This guy is your future?" I didn't answer. I just went inside. He stayed out there for a while. I could see him through the blinds, pacing, talking to himself. Then he finally got in his car and drove off. That night, Nathan and I talked seriously about whether we needed to take legal steps, about what the next few months might look like, about protecting what we'd built. I knew then that the chaos wasn't over. And I was right, because the very next week he came back, not just to talk. He brought someone with him. And what happened that day almost blew everything up. It was a Saturday, mid-morning. The sun was out. The kids were with my sister, and Nathan and I were planning to head out to a local art fair. Just a normal day. That's what made it worse. We heard the knock before we saw anything. 2 loud, firm hits to the front door. I glanced out the window and froze. It was him, but he wasn't alone. Standing beside him was a woman, mid-40s, arms crossed, looking more irritated than uncomfortable. It took me a second to place her, but when I did, I felt my stomach twist. His mother. The same woman who barely spoke to me during our marriage, who called me too sensitive when he forgot anniversaries or birthdays, who once told me I should just be grateful he came home every night, as if that was the bar for being a good husband. I didn't open the door right away. Nathan came to the hallway. He didn't say anything, just looked at me. I opened it. My ex didn't waste a second. He started talking fast, rehearsed, like he was presenting a case in court, said he brought his mom to help mediate, that she understood how much he'd changed, that they talked about everything, that he had a plan to co-parent better, that he still believed we had unfinished business. His mom chimed in, said she didn't think what I was doing was healthy, that I was confusing the kids by bringing another man into their lives so soon. She even asked Nathan to step aside so we could have some privacy as a family. Nathan didn't move. He just looked at her, then at me. I didn't yell. I didn't argue. I just told them both that there was no unfinished business, that I wasn't confused, that I wasn't scared, that they needed to leave. That's when my ex broke. He started raising his voice, saying that I was making a mistake, that I was destroying our kids' foundation, that one day they'd blame me, not him. Nathan took one small step forward and asked them both to leave. Calm, direct. My ex didn't like that. He started shouting about how Nathan had no right to interfere, how he stole his family, how he manipulated me. His mother grabbed his arm and tried to pull him back, but he shook her off. That's when I closed the door. Not fast, not dramatic, just firm. The lock clicked. We stood there for a moment in silence. Then I walked over to the counter, picked up my bag, and said, "Let's go to the fair." And we did. That was the last time I saw him face to face. We went through lawyers after that. He stopped trying to come around in person. The court formalized visitation, and the kids, by their own choice, started spending less and less time with him. They saw what I saw. They remembered. Last week, Nathan and I finalized our wedding plans. It's going to be small. Backyard, string lights, no speeches, just the people who never left. I still drive by the house where my ex lives with his mom sometimes. It's not revenge. It's not gloating. It's just a reminder that I survived, that I rebuilt, and that I never needed to take him back to feel whole again. The update. Just when I thought the last door had finally closed, something else creaked open. I wasn't going to post again. I really believed that the confrontation with his mother was the end of it, that he had finally accepted that it was over. But people like him, ones who walk out and expect you to still be waiting on the porch when they come back, they don't really stop. Not when their pride is bruised. Not when the version of you they left behind no longer exists. It started 3 nights ago with a message from a friend. It was just a screenshot, a post from some anonymous Instagram account. First, I thought it was spam. Then I looked at the pictures and I froze. 3 photos, all taken from a distance. All of me and Nathan. One of us having coffee downtown. One in the grocery store parking lot. One in our front yard with the kids. All recent. All within the last 2 weeks. None of them tagged us directly, but it was clear who the post was about. The captions were vague and sour. Phrases like "cheaters never prosper" and "rebuilding on lies" thrown around like dirty laundry. A few hashtags, all generic. It looked like some bitter stranger throwing stones in the dark. But I knew. Nathan knew too. We reported the account immediately. It disappeared within an hour. But the damage wasn't digital. It was emotional, psychological. He was still watching, still orbiting, still looking for a way in. The photos were one thing, but it was the timing that disturbed us. 2 of the photos were taken in places we hadn't mentioned to anyone. Not online, not even to friends, which meant he had been following us. That night, Nathan checked the cameras. We upgraded the security system the month after the confrontation with his mother, just to be safe. And sure enough, 2 weeks ago, there he was. Early morning, hoodie up, walking past our house slow enough to glance at the windows. He didn't knock. He didn't say anything, just passed by. But it was enough. I sat with the kids the next day and told them everything. I didn't sugarcoat it. I didn't dramatize it. I told them their father might not be done trying to create problems, that he might try to pull them into it next, that if anything strange happened online, at school, anywhere, they needed to come to me or Nathan immediately. They took it better than I did. My daughter said, "He's trying to make us afraid. That's what cowards do." My son asked if we could get a dog. I told him we'd talk about it. Nathan called our lawyer again. This time, we're looking into filing a formal restraining order. It's not a guarantee. He hasn't threatened us directly, but we're compiling everything. Every post, every message, every recorded moment. I want to believe this is the last chapter. I want to believe that people like him eventually burn out and disappear. But deep down, I know better. He's not acting out of love. He's acting out of ego. He didn't come back because he missed me. He came back because I had moved on without him. And nothing burns a man like that more than irrelevance. So no, this might not be the last update. But if he's reading this, and I wouldn't be surprised if he is, I want him to know. The woman you left behind doesn't exist anymore. You're not haunting me. You're not hurting me. You're just proving over and over again why I never should have looked back. And if you come closer again, emotionally, digitally, physically, I will finish what you started. Because I'm not scared, not anymore.